Good afternoon to all. I think I have it connected correctly. Well, I don't have everything connected correctly, but we'll go with this. Welcome to little conversation today with myself. Hello to all and to nobody. It is almost the direct end of the month, March 30th, 2020. And if you had told me when I was 20 that 2020 would look like this, I would have said to you, you are out of your mind. This has been the single craziest year just because of this event. Just this event alone has made this year crazy. And of course, the event I'm talking about is the virus. I don't even want to call it by name anymore, but this pandemic that we're dealing with that is allowing all kinds of crazy behavior from the government and people all around. But again, it's March 30th, 2020. The stock market actually had a bit of a rally today. It's 22,327. Picked up 690 points. There was also a pickup of a few points yesterday. So they've learned to not not do their little task force announcements at the beginning of the day. They're doing them after the market is closed. They're very close to the close of the market. So if the wild man gets on camera on the mic and says something too crazy, they will it won't affect the market. If you watch the market, one of his first broadcasts regarding this thing, you could actually see the market dropping as he was talking. So they have again strategically changed the time frame. My dad just sent me something about Nostradamus, which he has spoken about to me about even when I was a little kid. But it says Nostradamus wrote in the year 1551 this: there will be a twin year, 2020, from which will rise a queen, Corona, who will come from the East, China, and who will spread a plague virus in the darkness of night on a country with 7 hills, Italy, and will transform the twilight of men into dust, death, to destroy and ruin the world. It will be the end of the world economy as you know it. Nostradamus. Now, if you go and take a look at the Nostradamus book, there's a lot of predictions in there that don't come true. And there are a lot of coincidences in there as well. So I don't know if Mr. Damas was able to really predict what was happening or what was going to happen or what is happening in the world. But there are a lot of coincidences in there. And this would be one of them. Now, I don't know in the translation, in the actual text, the way this is written. This is written from a video online. So I don't know if he actually wrote 2020 in his text. I don't think he did. It just called it a twin year, which you could, I suppose you could translate to anything. And then will arise a queen. That is, I know in Spanish, corona means crown in Spanish. And so I don't know how you could get from queen to corona. come from the east and spread a plague. I mean, technically, this is a plague. So, there's a lot of stretching you have to do for things like that. But that's what you do when you are in the conspiracy theories. But if you want to go take a look at Nostradamus, you can. So the current situation now, as I will want to look back on this when I'm 140, is that the virus has now has 750,000 over 750,000 global cases, and um, we are now we were once on a 15-day or 14-day lockdown. First, it was we're going to lock down over the weekend, and then it was okay. Now we're going to do a 14-day lockdown, but we're going to think about doing a 14-day lockdown. And then they stretched that. We're going to think about it. They stretched that out over a week. So then it went from we're going to think about the 14-day lockdown to we're going to do the 14-day lockdown, which they stretched, like I said, a whole week before they actually gave us the conference before, in saying that we were probably going to go to another full month of the lockdown practices or the social distancing practices or whatever that program is that Vice President Pence always refers back to the president's plan. The president's plan. We want to thank you, Mr. President, for your gracious leadership. And we appreciate everything that you've done for this country, Mr. President. And we want to just make sure that everybody's following the rules that the president has assigned for us all. Now, my fellow Americans. So anyway, now we're at a month, baby. So I'm in a non-essential business. I could turn my camera this way and you would see that my whole business is now in the dark. I do have a light on behind me, but over here, there's no lights, darkness. And the other building next to me, which is the women's side, darkness as well. This is far-reaching, and I don't know how in the hell we're going to get out of this. They're going to mail people payments of which, just so you all know, my fellow Americans, the $6 trillion package that they rolled out is all going to be taxed paid by you in taxes. And I don't know how we're going to pay back the current national debt, which all of a sudden national debt is no longer an issue for people who whined and complained about the national debt when Obama was president. Now you don't hear anything about it. So that in itself is a whole other discussion. But the national debt was out of control, which leads you to sort of think about it's a coincidence that all this is happening when we had a snowballing debt that just seemed completely out of control. And now we have added to that debt. I mean, like significant amounts. We just basically took another snowball and we're making a snowman of debt. So we had one snowball and now we have another snowball. So and I would imagine that we're going to have to roll out another package at some point. So we'll have a full three snowballed snowman with a carrot nose and whatever kind of mouth. I don't remember what you make the mouth for the snowman out of, but this is just insane. It's very strange. The question is, what's going to happen? So we got the Instacart people. I think it's called Instacart. You got people that work for the packaging of these various companies that are delivering products to people's homes. They are either striking or talking about going on strike. And then you have the Amazon workers that are talking about going on strike or going on strike because apparently the conditions in which these people work in do not support the health and survival of the employees for these companies. So the employees are complaining that they're being lied to about the number of people that actually have tested positive for the virus, and whether or not they should be wearing protective equipment. I have a family member that works for an aerospace company, manufacturing company, and there are hundreds of people that work in this company, and they're still working and taking no precaution. Now, I know that they provide parts for the military, so they probably are an essential business because the military cannot stop making parts and or weapons, which I understand, kinda. But they should be taking precautions. People are actually dying. So some people out there don't. Some of my friends are saying this is an actual hoax. Listen, it may be a hoax. It may be a hoax. It may be. I don't think it is, but for the purpose of supporting your perspective, let's say it's a hoax. But let me tell you something. It's a pretty strong hoax because people are dying. There are people dying, and as which I don't know why he's brought this up twice. I think it's very interesting that Trump spoke twice about 40-foot freezer trucks for the dead bodies. I don't I don't know why. Why would he say that? But he did say it. Just doesn't seem like the right kind of message to be sending people. I mean, I know that the internet is being censored, and uh 2 weeks ago you got no information on Twitter, Instagram. You could not really find any information about hospitals pertaining to the virus. You couldn't find any weird, not weird, specific information in a country filled with cell phones. You couldn't find any hospital videos. You couldn't find any doctors putting out messages on how to deal with the virus or what they were dealing with on a regular basis. All of that stuff was non-existent, and I found it odd, especially in a country where people have opinions. They're free to share their opinions, and but yet you could not find that information. Um, so, oh wow. So, just so you know, it is my belief that our internet here in the wonderful, great old America is being censored, just like what they found out was happening during the outbreak in China. So, this is how they do it. So, when you go online and you want to, like, you go online, you go on your social media and you want to find a specific thing, obviously you're going to use the words to find that thing. So let's say you want to find um, how to make orange juice. Okay, so if you're going to put in how to make orange juice, you're going to probably write that. How do I make orange juice? Okay, so they take those keywords from that sentence and they have the programmers put into let's say the search criteria to not allow the search items pertaining to those keywords to be found. Now all those terms are probably incorrect that I'm using because I'm not a coder, but they use the keywords against you. So if you want to find out uh, about videos in New York, New York hospitals, you put in videos in New York hospitals. Those keywords are not going to send you to the information that you're looking for. It's going to send you to the information that maybe is similar to your keywords, but not specific. So it may, what I was finding is that if you put in New York hospitals, you were finding old articles either at the beginning of the year or sometime last year pertaining to New York hospitals. So, and they used as many as 100 in China for WeChat and their other search engine similar to Google, they used over 100 keywords. I'm sorry, they blocked over 100 keywords. So, I mean, if I'm going to try to figure out how to make orange juice, how many keywords am I going to use? I can't. You can't come up with 100 keywords on how to make orange juice. So they went that extensive on this virus. So it was virtually impossible for people in China to find out information using search and WeChat, and it was impossible, virtually impossible, for us to figure out what was going on over there too, in China. So obviously, some really smart people um, got. Sorry, I just saw the police go by. Um, got some really smart people figured out a way to get around their firewalls and stuff and send information out. And I was telling somebody earlier today that I had seen the first video I saw regarding the virus in China was on New Year's Eve. Um, I was sitting in my brother-in-law's house, and I saw some weird videos on New Year's Eve that some people had just sort of snuck through. And I still stick with the point that obviously this was hidden because we have spies in China, we have hackers, we have satellites, drones, um, we're listening to phone calls, surveillance equipment, uh, I don't know, whatever other kind of monitoring that happens between countries that are technically rivals. So the chances of us not knowing what was happening, I think, is really low, are really low. So, and don't forget about the CDC not allowing that fella who could be patient zero up in the Seattle area or in Washington area um, to not be tested for 6 weeks. Don't forget about that. And then don't forget that another person was found, I think, 2 weeks or 4 weeks later to be positive as well, or to, I'm sorry, exemplify symptoms. And they refused to test that fellow as well. And they were able to walk around Seattle infecting thousands of people. And then people subsequently died in that area as well as infect other people. So, um, something is weird. It's weird. They have allowed the virus to spread around the country for at least 2 months, maybe longer. Then the CDC allegedly puts out a test that was faulty, didn't work. So you couldn't get any conclusive results from the test. And the doctors complained about that. So all of those things are weird. And now, as I said before, it could just be that we're just what we thought we were in a society that was advanced, and we thought the people that were in charge or are in charge are really intelligent, and they've gone to the best schools in the world, and they are the most organized, and they carry out and facilitate the best plans to make sure that Americans are protected and that our systems are in place to handle um, as much difficulty as possible and to be the best and do the best in the world. But yet, doesn't seem to be the case. And that may be why in every press conference, we're always talking about. This is the thing that, so today I'm listening to the press conference and I get so anxious in these press conferences because um, what I'm hearing, it's like a cheering session. I'm hearing people talk about, we're testing more people than anybody else in the world. We have the best tests, and uh, no other country is testing 100,000 people a day. And we've now tested over 1 million people. And we're now manufacturing more masks than any other country in the world. Who cares about that? And if you care about that, listen, I get it. We got to get the numbers up. We need to do better. I appreciate the fact that we're manufacturing masks and we're doing better than everybody else. Well, you know what? We should be doing better than everybody else. It should go without saying. We shouldn't even have to say America is processing more virus tests than anybody else. That is an absurd statement. The fact that we actually have to tell that to the public, the American public, that we're actually testing more people than anybody else. Well, I'll be damned. Shouldn't we be testing more people than everybody else? If we keep talking about we have had the greatest economy in the history of the world, that's what we hear all the time. So if we have the greatest economy in the history of the world, certainly the infrastructure in creating that economy would be able to manufacture more masks and tests and facilitate those actions better than anybody else in the world if the economy is better than ever before. So it should go without saying, and Americans should expect that. In fact, when that's said, we should be saying, we know, but what is next? What else do you have? What else can you do? Not, we're testing more people than everybody else. Well, that's great. Now that's a new norm. That's the expectation. Okay? That's the expectation from now on. We don't need to hear about it anymore. I don't want to hear about, you can put it on a website. You can show me what we were 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, 2 months ago, last year. I'd love to see those numbers. I don't want to hear about it anymore like some freaking stat. I don't want to hear about how we're the best in the world now at creating 50 million masks. I don't want to hear about that. What I do want to hear about is how those masks are actually getting to the doctors and those doctors are using it. And now doctors are now not getting sick anymore. That's what I want to hear about. Because that's what matters. It doesn't matter that that we are creating 50 million masks. That's great. Congratulations. What matters is that the masks are actually getting to the people and the people are using them. So, like anybody that's listening to these press conferences and feeling great about the number of things that we are doing better than anybody else. I mean, dude, are we in third grade? Are we in seventh grade? Maybe seventh grade? So we need to do better. And as Americans, we need to expect more. And I talked to you a while, well, I mentioned, there's nobody I'm really talking to, but I mentioned before in the past that this society is living in too much luxury and nothing is getting done. And this is an example of that. What's happening right now and is an example of there is people are living in luxurious lives. Now, don't get me wrong. It's like I said before, my life is great. I have a nice house. I obviously I'm here in this nice place to kind of relay my thoughts, which is better than probably a large percentage of the world. I'm not complaining about that. But I think that we can do better. I do. And I think that we have, as people, should demand better. The fact that we are locked down in our houses because people were negligent is, I think it's inappropriate. And I think it's inappropriate, especially for 2020. And I think it's inappropriate when um, we have the greatest economy in the history of the world, but yet we couldn't handle the simplest of things. The simplest of things is we knew something was happening in another place. We knew people. We know specifically how many people are traveling from that country on a daily basis, that specific region of the country on a daily basis, to what regions they're traveling to around the world. We know just with a quick check, you know who typically travels from that place to this place. And instead of focusing on, I don't know, retirement, I don't know what they're focusing on. Going to nice restaurants, buying new cars, trading in their yacht for a new yacht. I don't know what could be happening. I don't know. But I don't understand what happened, and I don't know why no more people aren't asking questions about it. I don't think it's right. I think it's unacceptable. Anyway, we must do better. So everything has been canceled. Coachella has been canceled. South by Southwest has been canceled. Um, I mean, I just don't know what we're gonna. Khabib and freaking Tony Ferguson. Listen, this is not an important thing, I know, but the fact that this fight has been canceled I think this is the fifth time, is. I was actually looking forward to this happening because with no audience, I can't even believe. First of all, I'm just going to tell you that my beliefs. Khabib does not want to fight Tony Ferguson. It's pretty obvious. And I don't blame him. I mean, there's no reason to fight him. He was going to make Khabib was going to make a lot of money because a lot of people were going to watch that fight because they wanted to see if he's the greatest of um the greatest of all time. Is that how it's is that the statement in the lightweight division? And people wanted to see if that was the case, and they thought maybe this particular guy would be the one to challenge him. And watching the press conference and listening to what Tony Ferguson said about somebody watching his training camp and then Khabib getting a call, I believe that. I believe that's what happened. I believe that if you go back and you watch, well, I mean, that's if you go back and you watch Khabib's fights, Tony Ferguson was going to be a problem. I don't want to call him by his first name. I'm calling Khabib by his first name, so I'll call him Tony. Tony was going to be a problem for Khabib, and I don't think Khabib actually wanted. I don't think he wants to fight him. Because if he really did want to fight him, his ass would have left Russia a long time ago, and he didn't. So people can say what they want to say, but he can say what he wants to say in terms of being locked down in Russia. But here's what I know about Russia, and you can ask people that have been there. I've never been there, but I have probably more experience than I'll just say this. I have more experience with Russian people than the average American because I worked with Russian people for quite a bit of time and I spent a lot of time with them. And I'm a person who asks questions about everything. And one thing I would tell you about Russia is if you are an important person, you have money, you can do whatever you want to do if you know the right people. And Khabib knows the right people. So there is nothing in Russia that's keeping Khabib in Russia. Khabib is keeping himself in Russia because there is no lockdown in Russia. Just a week and a half ago, Russia was saying that they didn't even have any coronavirus cases, Maybe it was 2 weeks ago, but it wasn't that long ago. When everybody else was running around with their head on fire, Russia was saying that they didn't actually have any cases. Now, if again, then we're talking about wealthy people. We're talking about Dana White said that Khabib has at least $50 million in the bank. 50 million. Okay. So I don't know if you're practical, if you are conservative like Khabib. Maybe when you have $50 million in the bank, it doesn't call for. There's no what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe your practices, your crew, the things that you do are not sophisticated. Maybe there's no sophisticated communication tools in your camp, in your community. Maybe. But I would imagine if you have $50 million, you probably have somebody that's informed, because you definitely have lawyers and you definitely have doctors, and usually doctors and lawyers do a pretty good job of kind of staying on top of information, as they deal with information all the time. And the more they have, the better they do at their jobs. So if there was a thought, so Khabib knew that the possibility of there being coronavirus cases, or that the country was going to go on lockdown, he would have gotten a call from the big man, and the big man would have said, "Hey, dude, we're going to lock the country down. If you need to do this fight, you need to leave now." So I put this one on Khabib. I do. I don't think Khabib wanted this fight. I don't think he wants to do this fight. And the fact that this fight has now been postponed 5 times, Conor McGregor was right. And I'm not a big Conor McGregor fan. I think he was also sort of propped up in his career. But anyway, he called it. He said this fight wasn't going to happen. And I was like, I cannot, I didn't believe him, but he was right. He knows. He knows something about Khabib that I mean, he knows him just as well as anybody else, I suppose, especially if you're, when you're fighting somebody, you almost share spirits with that person. So he knows who and what Khabib is. So I call it Khabib's fault. And I think Dana White should make him fight. I think if they need to fly Tony Ferguson to Russia and have him fight in the mountains, make it happen, because people are going to tune in to see it for sure. You just have to promote it a little bit harder. So that's a sad thing that's happening. So it's what's trending right now on Twitter is "Stop airing Trump." I don't know what that means, but I would imagine it means that people are tired of listening to some of the rhetoric, I guess. And that's it. That's all I got. So, still alive, healthy. My admonishment or advice today would be to do what you can to protect your immune system. So to strengthen your immune system. So strengthen your immune system by one way is to use vitamin C. And I'm not a doctor, but I would take vitamin C to your tolerance level. And if you don't know what your tolerance level is, just look it up. Look up what you can look up how to figure out what your tolerance level for vitamin C is. And also take zinc. I've never actually been a fan of echinacea, but some people swear by it. And all the studies that I've read on it actually seem to be pretty promising. So that's probably something that you should consider as well. But those two things that I just named will help out help you out significantly, vitamin C and zinc. And try to get your sunlight to increase your vitamin D intake. So I would go out for 20 minutes and get some sun. I don't know if you can tell, I actually have a tan because I've been out in the backyard now for 3 weeks, working on stuff and in the sun. So those are the 3 practices: get rest and also get sleep. So more than 3 things. But I wish I could do this regularly, but it's just so hard to. I have to leave the house to do this, and I don't like doing it right now because I'm not sure who they're trying to kill, and I'm not trying to be one of the ones that they're trying to kill. I haven't figured out the full scam yet, but we'll see what happens. Adios, everybody.